76% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. 64% of Americans that have businesses break even or lose money. Most people don't have any money and have accepted the fact that they don't have any money. They don't have any leftover money. They're fearful of money constantly. They overspend. They don't know how to produce money. They definitely don't know how to multiply it. The land of the brave and the home of the free, it's not even close to the truth.
That complaining has no value. And if you complain about not having enough money, work more. If you complain about not having work-life balance, spend more time on vacationing and your family. It's super simple. Let your actions dictate instead of sitting there and feeling like you're not in control.
Poor people say, I can't afford it, I can't do that, I don't have time. It's an escape, you know what I mean? It's easy to say I can't afford it.
Money doesn't have value, right? And this is an important thing that most people don't immediately understand, is that money itself doesn't have value. Money is a vector for transmitting value. It's how you express value. But the value isn't in the money, it's in the product or service you bought with it. And it's in the labor you gave in order to acquire it in the first place. That's where the value comes from. There's nothing intrinsically valuable in the money.
Your heart, your life, your happiness is your responsibility and your responsibility alone.
One day, you're gonna realize your life is yours, and there's a lot of people important to you that surround it, but ultimately it's yours.
Then you must decide where you want to invest this life. Invest in something worthwhile.
You have to picture yourself there. Wherever it is, you've got to picture yourself there. All right, the next step is you've got to believe it.
The wealthiest cities in America are now almost 7 times richer than the poorest regions, and that gap has nearly doubled since the 1960s. Just think about that for a second. This isn't some slow, gradual change. It's a massive financial divide that's getting wider every single day. If you've ever felt like you're running on a hamster wheel, working harder and saving what you can, but still feeling like you're falling behind, you're not alone. And you're not imagining things. It can feel like you're playing a game where the rules are kept from you and the goalposts are always moving. But what if this wasn't about working 7 times harder? What if it has nothing to do with luck, or being a genius, or knowing some secret handshake? It's about strategy. The wealthy aren't just earning more, they are playing a completely different financial game. They understand a set of rules that most of us were never taught. In this video, we're going to break down that playbook. We're not just going to talk about the problem, we're going to look at the 7 key strategies the wealthy use to multiply their money, so you can stop playing their game and start building your own. Before we get into the strategies, we need to be honest about the problem. For most people, the path is simple and linear. Go to school, get a job, earn a salary, pay bills, save a little, and hope it's enough to retire on someday. Your main financial tool is your own labor. You trade your time for money. But that's a path with a hard ceiling. There are only so many hours in a day. The wealthy, on the other hand, operate in a totally different system. It's a system built not on income, but on owning assets. They understand that real wealth isn't about how much you earn, it's about how much you own. They don't just trade their time for money. They buy and build things that make money for them, even while they sleep. This creates a powerful feedback loop. As their assets like stocks, real estate, and businesses grow in value, they generate more income. They use that income to buy even more assets. It's an upward spiral. Meanwhile, anyone relying on a salary is often dealing with flat wages, rising inflation, eating away at their savings, and a tax system that seems to punish labor more than capital. A lot of people get stuck because of a few common myths. They think wealth management is only for the super rich, or you need a lot of money to even start investing. The reality is, even small, consistent investments can grow into a fortune. Others believe financial planning is for when you're about to retire, not realizing that planning early is what actually secures your future. And a lot of people think a high income automatically means wealth, but we've all heard stories of lottery winners and celebrities who made millions and ended up broke because they had no strategy. These myths are like invisible walls that keep people trapped. They lead to missed opportunities, bad financial habits, and that constant feeling of being vulnerable. To break free, you don't just need more money. You need a better strategy. You need a new playbook. If you're tired of feeling stuck and you're ready to start learning the rules of the game, do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about giving you the financial education you never got in school, and you won't want to miss what's coming up. Strategy 1. The rich don't work for money. Money works for them. The biggest difference between the wealthy and everyone else comes down to how they see two simple words: assets and liabilities. This is a core concept for them. An asset is anything that puts money in your pocket. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. It sounds almost too simple, but applying this idea is what creates the huge wealth gap. The average person's financial life revolves around collecting liabilities. They get a raise, and the first thing they think about is a bigger house, a nicer car, or the newest phone. These things feel like rewards, but financially, they're anchors. A bigger house means a bigger mortgage, higher taxes, and more upkeep. A new car comes with a monthly payment and insurance that drains your cash. People spend their lives working harder and harder just to pay for their liabilities. The wealthy do the exact opposite. When they get extra cash, their first thought is, what asset can I buy with this? They are focused on acquiring things that generate income. Dividend-paying stocks, a rental property, a piece of a business, or even intellectual property. Think of it this way. The average person is trying to fill a bucket with a single cup, their salary. They have to keep running back and forth to the well. The wealthy person isn't focused on the cup. They're busy building a sprinkler system. They use their time and money to build a network of assets that passively and automatically waters their garden. That system is their portfolio. It works 24/7, whether they're sleeping, on vacation, or working on something new. This isn't about being cheap or never enjoying nice things. It's about priorities. The wealthy buy their luxuries last, after their assets have made enough money to pay for them. Most people buy luxuries first, often with credit, which just digs a deeper hole. This one shift in mindset from focusing on earning to focusing on owning is the first and most important play in their book. Strategy 2, they understand and use good debt. For most people, the word debt causes instant anxiety. We think of credit card balances, student loans, car payments. This is bad debt. Money you borrow to buy things that lose value and don't make you any money. It's a trap, and the wealthy avoid it at all costs. But they are masters of using a completely different kind of debt. Good debt. Good debt is when you borrow money to buy an asset that's expected to grow in value or produce income that's higher than the interest on the loan. They use other people's money to build their own wealth. Real estate is the classic example. Let's say you want to buy a $500,000 rental property. Most people think they need to save up $500,000. The wealthy know they just need the down payment, say $100,000. They borrow the other $400,000 from a bank. Just like that, they control a $500,000 asset with only $100,000 of their own money. Here's where it gets interesting. First, the rent they collect from the tenant covers the mortgage, taxes, and other costs. Second, whatever is left over is cash flow that goes straight into their pocket. Third, the tenant is the one paying down their loan, building their equity month after month. And fourth, the property itself is likely appreciating in value over the long term. So they're not just earning a return on their $100,000 investment, they're earning it on the full $500,000 asset. That's leverage, and it's like rocket fuel for building wealth. They do the same thing when they buy businesses. They borrow to acquire a company whose profits will more than cover the loan payments. The average person uses debt to consume. The wealthy use debt to invest. They see it as a tool, not a risk. By understanding the difference between good and bad debt, they can grow their wealth at a speed that's impossible for someone who is only using their own money. Strategy 3, they treat taxes as a game to be won. For most of us, tax season is something to dread. You add up your income, follow the instructions on a form, and pay whatever the government says you owe. It's a passive thing. For the wealthy, tax strategy isn't something they think about once a year, it's a constant focus. They see the tax code not as a list of rules to follow, but as a list of incentives. The government creates these loopholes to encourage certain behaviors, and the wealthy are more than happy to do those things. They don't just earn money, they structure their entire financial lives to legally minimize the taxes they pay. One of their most powerful strategies is known as buy, borrow, die. Here's the breakdown. Buy. They purchase assets that grow in value, like stocks or real estate. They hold onto these assets and try to never sell them. Because our tax system mainly taxes transactions as long as they don't sell, the growth of their wealth isn't taxed. Borrow. When they need cash to live on, they don't sell their assets. Instead, they take out low-interest loans against their massive portfolios. This is the key. A loan isn't considered income, so it's not taxed. They can live off millions of dollars of borrowed money, tax-free. Die. When they pass away, their heirs inherit the assets. Thanks to something called the stepped-up basis, the asset's original cost is reset to its market value at the time of death. This means a lifetime of capital gains can be completely wiped away, never to be taxed. They also get creative with deductions. They might structure a hobby like owning a horse farm or a hotel as a business to generate huge write-offs. They use things like real estate depreciation to create paper losses that cancel out their taxable income, even while their properties are going up in actual value. And they use strategic charity, donating appreciated stock to get a big tax deduction while avoiding the capital gains tax they would have paid if they sold it. They don't do this stuff on their own. They hire the best accountants and tax lawyers to build complex structures of trusts and companies to optimize everything. It's a completely different universe from the TurboTax software most of us use. For them, tax planning isn't about saving a few $100. It's about saving millions, and it's a cornerstone of their strategy. Strategy 4, they diversify beyond stocks and bonds. When most people hear investing, they think about a mix of stocks and bonds. That's the standard advice, and it's a perfectly fine place to start. But for the super rich, that's just the shallow end of the pool. Their strategy is built on a level of diversification that goes way beyond the public markets. They know that true financial security comes from not having all your eggs in one basket. They spread their money across a wide range of asset classes, many of which are off limits to the average investor. This includes things like private equity, investing directly in private companies before they're even listed on the stock market, giving them a shot at explosive growth, venture capital, funding the next wave of startups. They know most will fail, but one early investment in a company like Uber or Airbnb can return 100 times their money or more. Hedge funds, complex investment funds that can use aggressive strategies to make money whether the market is going up or down. Hard assets. They invest in things you can actually touch, like commercial real estate, farmland, or infrastructure projects like toll roads and airports. These provide steady cash flow and are a great defense against inflation. Collectibles. For the very wealthy, this might be fine art, rare cars, or vintage wine. These aren't just hobbies. They are alternative investments that can hold their value and are completely disconnected from the stock market. This extreme diversification does two things. First, it lowers their risk. A stock market crash won't destroy them because so much of their wealth is in private businesses or real estate. Second, it gives them more ways to grow. By placing bets across so many different areas, they make sure some part of their portfolio is always in a position to do well, no matter what the economy is doing. This is about building a portfolio that is so robust and varied that it can survive almost any economic storm, protecting and growing their wealth in both good times and bad. We're about to get into the last 3 strategies, and this is where we shift from what the wealthy do to how they think. If you're finding this breakdown valuable, let me know by hitting the like button. It really helps the channel and tells the algorithm that this is the kind of content people want. Strategy 5, they build a personal board of directors. Nobody gets to be ultra wealthy by themselves. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to do everything themselves when it comes to money. They try to be their own stock picker, tax expert, and retirement planner all at once. That DIY approach usually leads to mediocre results, or worse, a complete disaster. The wealthy understand the power of specialized knowledge. They don't see hiring professionals as an expense. They see it as an investment that pays for itself many times over. They put together what is basically a personal board of directors, a team of top-tier advisors focused on protecting and growing their wealth. This team usually includes a financial advisor or wealth manager. This person is like the quarterback, looking at the entire financial picture and making sure all the different parts are working together. A tax strategist. Not just someone who files their taxes, but a proactive planner who is always looking for legal ways to lower their tax bill. An estate planning attorney. A lawyer who builds the legal structures like trusts needed to protect their assets from lawsuits and pass them on to the next generation. Investment specialists. This could be anyone from commercial real estate brokers to private equity experts, depending on what they invest in. This team provides two incredibly valuable things. First is expertise. The tax code is thousands of pages long. Investment opportunities are global and complex. No one can be an expert in all of it. This team brings a ton of collective experience to the table. Second, they provide an objective, unemotional viewpoint. When the market is crashing, the average investor panics and sells at the worst possible time. The wealthy person's advisory team tells them to stay calm or even buy more, turning a crisis into an opportunity. They pay well for this advice because they know that one smart idea from their tax strategist could save them millions, and one piece of bad advice avoided could prevent a huge loss. They aren't playing a solo game. They are running a professional operation where their wealth is the business. Strategy 6, they play the infinite game of generational wealth. Most people have a clear finish line for their financial journey: retirement. The goal is to save up enough money to stop working and live comfortably for another 20 or 30 years. It's a finite game. The wealthy are not playing that game. They're playing the infinite game of generational wealth. Their timeline isn't 30 years, it's 100 years or more. They aren't just building a nest egg for themselves, they're building a dynasty for their kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids. That long-term view changes every single financial decision they make. We see this playing out right now with the Great Wealth Transfer, where an estimated $84 trillion is expected to be passed down over the next couple of decades. The wealthy don't start planning for this when they get old. They start planning for it the moment their children are born. This generational mindset shows up in a few key ways. Structured estate planning. They use complex legal tools like dynasty trust to pass wealth through multiple generations, while shielding it from taxes, lawsuits, and even the bad decisions of a future family member. Often, the trust owns the wealth for the family, not individuals. Financial education for heirs. They know that most family fortunes are gone by the third generation, usually because the kids weren't prepared. To prevent this, they teach their children about money from a young age. They involve them in family business discussions and investment decisions. They aren't just passing down money, they're passing down knowledge. A focus on legacy. Their goals are bigger than just buying things. They think about funding a family foundation or making sure the family business is still around in 100 years. This sense of purpose pushes them toward long-term, stable assets instead of short-term, risky bets. When your goal isn't just to retire in comfort, but to ensure your family is secure for generations, you act differently. You take fewer stupid risks, you plan more carefully, and you invest in things that are built to last. You stop thinking in years and start thinking in decades and centuries. Strategy 7. They are lifelong learners in the business of their wealth. In a world that changes this fast, the most dangerous thing you can say is, "But we've always done it this way." The average person might set up their 401k and then not look at it for years. They find one strategy and stick with it, even if it stopped being effective a long time ago. The wealthy treat their wealth like a CEO treats their business. They are constantly learning and adapting. They know that markets change, technology disrupts, and new rules get written. Standing still is the fastest way to lose. This dedication to continuous learning is just part of their routine. They read financial news, industry reports, and analysis of world events. They go to investment conferences and network with other successful people to trade ideas. They are constantly testing their own strategies and asking their team of advisors, "What are we missing? What's the next big risk or opportunity?" They study inflation to figure out how to position their portfolio to benefit from it. They learn about new technologies like AI and blockchain and how they will change entire industries. They analyze global trends to see what's coming next. This isn't a hobby. It is the active management of their most important business, their own net worth. They are never finished learning because the game is never over. While the average person might spend their evening on Netflix, a wealthy individual is more likely to be reading an annual report or a book on economic history. They are students of the game, and this constant pursuit of knowledge is what helps them stay ahead of the curve and spot opportunities that no one else sees. So those are the 7 strategies that form the core of the playbook for the wealthy. They focus on buying assets, making their money work for them. They use good debt to accelerate their growth. They treat tax planning as a critical part of their strategy. They diversify into a fortress of different asset classes. They build a professional team to manage their finances. They think in terms of generations, not just retirement. They are relentless, lifelong learners who are always adapting. The growing wealth gap isn't a mystery, and it's not some accident. It's the direct result of 2 different groups playing by 2 completely different sets of rules. One set of rules leads to a life of trading your time for money. The other leads to a life of owning the machines that make the money. The good news is that these strategies aren't really secrets. The principles of buying assets, using leverage smartly, minimizing taxes, and planning for the long haul are out there for anyone willing to learn and apply them. You don't have to be a billionaire to start thinking like one. You can start today by making your next financial choice based on buying an asset, not just on consumption. You can start by educating yourself and by demanding more from your own financial future. The gap is wide, but it's not impossible to cross. The playbook is out there. Now it's your move. What is the one strategy from this video that you are going to start implementing in your own life? What's your top wealth management tip? Share your thoughts and commitments in the comments below. Reading and learning from each other is how we all get better. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next video, where we'll break down practical, step-by-step ways that anyone can start building their asset portfolio, even with a small amount of money. Thanks for watching.